that the cats literally could not give a fuck about the fireworks.
Dog is in the garden watching the fireworks. I think 21st century pets just don't give a shit.
Welcome back to Would John Rather, and just like Easter, but instead it was Halloween and now it's bonfire night, and it was a bit longer than 3 days. John has returned from the grave.
Woo!
And now he sounds like a firework, but with no bang at the end, just like his punchlines.
Are you pleased to have me back?
There is a certain je ne sais quoi that Nathan brings that you don't, but your absence was noted.
I miss him already.
Yeah, I do. But, you know, soon we'll be more than just friends, John. Soon we might actually be brothers, so...
There's always something to look forward to there.
Exactly.
What?
Anyway. I can't believe it's episode 81. It seems like only yesterday it was like episode 50. This podcast is spiralling out of control.
I thought it was 83.
No! How are you still so wrong? Is it because the clocks went back?
Yes.
Okay.
Clocks went back, episodes went forwards. That's how life works, isn't it? You lose 2 hours of sleep but gain an extra episode.
No, because the clocks went back, so we got an extra hour's sleep.
So we've gained 4 episodes.
Maybe.
Right, enough of this shenanigans. Would you rather orange squash or blackcurrant?
But blackcurrant squash or just blackcurrants?
Well, blackcurrant squash.
Ooh, this is a tough one.
This is the hardest question we've ever been asked.
It genuinely is, because it depends on my mood.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with blackcurrant squash.
Well, that's just as well, because I was going to go with orange.
Good, because I'm to set the mandatory fireworks off behind each one of you.
But how about this, John? Let's have an honest and open discussion about the pros and cons of both, seeing as we're both unsure, and then that way we'll have a genuine answer to the question as well.
Okay.
How does that sound? Rather than us attacking each other as normal. And we did miss you last week, so I'd like to at least start off on a friendly note before I destroy you.
Pretend us two were civilised while he was...
Yeah, it's a very civilised episode, 81. Because 81 is the reverse of 18, and 18 is when you become an adult and have responsibilities. Well, that's what they tell you, anyway.
And stop drinking squash.
Yeah.
I have not stopped drinking squash.
I regularly, now that I'm an adult and have disposable income, I will choose to drink, like,
cider,
carbonated drinks, or cider, or whiskey, or wine. And then when I feel like I do need to drink something that isn't that, I will just drink a nice refreshing glass of water or milk, chocolate milk. But I very rarely drink squash these days, and it's such a nice treat. When I do drink squash, I go, oh, I forgot how good squash is.
Do you know what that is? That's your kidneys going, thank you for stop abusing us.
Yeah, potentially.
I still drink squash on a daily basis.
I really should. I should get back into it. I might, like all these people, like, give up alcohol or chocolate, or apparently in November people are giving up masturbating, which I've never heard of before.
I saw this. No nuts November.
Every week at some point John goes and starts building something or deconstructing something.
Do you know what it sounded like to me? It sounds like he's picking up ice cubes to build his Eskimo house.
No,
Igloo.
I'm getting ice cubes out with everything not muted as I thought it was, because I'm going to go drink rum instead.
Oh, okay. During a question about squash, I thought you'd just suddenly gone, oh, I really want some squash. But no, rum. Fair enough.
I'm really sorry. I thought I was muted. I do apologise. Sorry for...
It's not us you need to apologise for. It's the listeners who have just turned it up so they can hear our amazingly monotone voices to then have the clatter of ice cubes for a solid minute in their ears.
I feel really bad. Sorry, guys. I genuinely thought I was quiet. I was happily rooting away without a care in the world, as you can tell by the obviously horrible audio. Sorry. As
you can tell, folks, extremely professional recording studio that we do this in, obviously.
I'm in the kitchen.
Anyway.
Right, can we get back on track.
Yeah, back on track. What were we saying, John, before we were rudely interrupted?
So, I think that it does depend on your mood. Orange squash, I think, is more of a summer drink.
But it's more refreshing.
Yeah, I think if you have an orange squash, you're definitely parched. You perhaps drink the whole thing all in one.
Yeah. Whereas
blackcurrant, savor it. You savor it.
Blackcurrant is tastier, but it's richer. So you tend to drink it a bit slower. And I always tend to find that you make blackcurrant squash a little bit weaker than you would make an orange squash.
Yeah, I'd agree with that too. I think, because it's richness and blackcurrants are almost certainly sharper in their sort of raw form, and that does translate into the squash as well. So I think a little bit does go a lot further.
Just side note, just so the listeners are aware, because this conversation's changed very much if we're talking about cordial. Now, cordial is different to squash because it has a higher sugar content, and that is why bars and clubs and things will use cordial rather than squash, because it works better as a mixer.
Unless you just have water, and then it's much worse.
Yes, cordial is worse with just plain water. But just so the listeners know, we're not talking about cordial. We're talking about squash. We're talking about, well, Robinson's is the leading name. Checks in the post. Thank you very much. But I would say they're the go-to. But whereas with orange squash, I would say would probably be Kiora, and blackcurrant is Ribena, because everybody knows that billions of Britain's blackberries almost make it. But that's neither here nor there. I think, and I don't know whether this might be a detriment to me winning this question, but basically growing up in my household, we had younger siblings and older siblings. Me and my brother, and I know this is ridiculous, but we weren't allowed the blackcurrant squash because the kids don't like orange, so we had to drink the orange. Now, my brother and I preferred the blackcurrant, so I wasn't really smart enough at that point to say, why don't you just buy 2 bottles of blackcurrant? They're not different prices. But that's all I think about now. However, I don't know, because I think I probably would pick an orange over a blackcurrant now as an adult, so I'm not sure if I was condition trained as a child to prefer orange, or whether my palate's changed so as an adult I prefer orange and as a child I preferred blackcurrant. Because there is something almost naughty about having a blackcurrant squash. It doesn't feel as healthy as having an orange one. I know that sounds ridiculous, but do you know what I mean?
I think, maybe the other thing is that perhaps an orange squash tastes more like fruit.
Yes, and less like sweets.
Yeah. Whereas I guess nobody really eats blackcurrants very often.
No, they're not
unless
exactly.
Unless you're in like a fancy.
Sorry, if you have one in your lunchbox, you feel a little bit hard done by.
Yeah.
One blackcurrant, whereas if you had an orange in your lunchbox, you probably wouldn't mind too much.
Yeah.
I mean, the other thing blackcurrant associates with me now is when I was in year 4, I think it was. Year 4 or year 5, something like that. I got extremely, extremely ill. I was off school for about 2-3 weeks, and I didn't eat anything for about 10 days of that. Like extreme sickness and diarrhea, but I have no idea what was wrong with me because I wasn't old enough to know. And the only thing that I had for those 10 days was Diarrhelite to help me try and get what I needed. And it was blackcurrant flavour, which at first you think, oh, fantastic. But if I told you you're not allowed to ingest anything other than a very strongly mixed blackcurrant squash for the next 10 days, that does something to you. It does something to your relationship with blackcurrants.
I think you're onto something there, because I tend to rotate my squashes. I told you I still drink squash on a daily basis, and if I've had, to be honest, nowadays I tend to get some sort of mix. The world has moved on from just having to have one flavour.
Like an orange and mango or a summer fruit.
Orange and pineapple, exactly. And If I've had a bottle of one, having a new bottle of something completely different flavoured is fantastic. So if you have a bottle of blackcurrant squash and then you have the choice, I'm probably going to go for the orange next. But likewise, I'll go back to blackcurrant at the end of the orange bottle.
See, I mean, there's all the other ones which I know we're not talking about. See, if I used to hate it when I asked for an orange squash and you get given an orange and pineapple because, as you know, it's my least favourite flavour in the world, and it was just awful. It was so disappointing. But I mean, you've got summer fruits. Do you know what is nice on a hot day? Not too strong, but a nice lemon squash.
Yep.
Yeah.
Can we all just agree now, though, that the worst flavour squash that's ever been invented, and you might disagree with me, but I don't understand why anyone likes the taste, grapefruit.
I didn't realise that was a squash. I knew they did it like as a juice, and it's rancid, and I hate it.
It's an awful squash.
Ugh.
I'd rather have the pineapple, I think.
I'd rather someone threw a grapefruit at me.
My actual favourite squash is probably apple.
I'd see apple. It depends. Once again, that's sort of a summer refreshing, but it always just feels like an imitation of apple juice.
Yeah,
because it is.
Yeah, but you know, orange squash is different to orange juice. They're completely different textures.
For sure. I mean, I also love apple juice, and it definitely is a pale imitation of apple juice. However, more thirst quenching. Having a pint of juice,
it's like a meal.
I still feel thirsty after a pint of juice.
Yeah.
I'm not. Whereas, you can have a pint of squash and that hits the spot.
I think I'm about to lose this argument for myself, but given the choice between blackcurrant and apple and blackcurrant squash, I'd always go for the apple and blackcurrant squash.
Yeah.
So
as an adult, definitely. Maybe as a child I might have. I can't really remember, but I'd say definitely now I would go for that apple and blackcurrant. Whereas I might still, on occasion, just go for the pure orange.
Yeah, so if the question was apple and blackcurrant or orange, I think we'd still have a debate on our hands. But based on that, I think orange squash wins.
I think you're right, yeah, because I picked up some Ribena the other week and went, oh, this is amazing. And I went, if it's so amazing, why don't I buy it every week, apart from the fact it's extortionate and it probably will give me diabetes. But I always go back to orange.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember as a child, it was always apple and blackcurrant. We never had just blackcurrant in the house. It was always apple and blackcurrant.
Yeah. So
I think orange wins on this occasion, I reckon.
Orange wins, and I would just like to say that was a very pleasant experience. To anybody that's ever having a proper debate, like all of the things that we see on the news at the moment about people screaming at each other in the House of Commons and things, this is how it's done. But I agree, we accomplish more, it is more pleasant, but it is not as fun. So for the state,
also not solve the Irish border.
No, so for the state of the country and all of our futures, you should do what we just did. For the state of us doing this as a hobby, let's go back to the original methods. Are we all in agreement?
What, shouting at each other until one person runs out of points?
Yeah, because that was far too productive, but I did feel it was it's probably the most important discussion we've had collectively in our lives.
Quite right.
Quite possibly.
And I don't even think I'm joking.
Sad thing is, I can't actively disagree with you.
Suggestion of the week time. I have a brief one that I wanted to mention, but it's not so much a suggestion. Well, it might be, but if anyone else has got a proper one, feel free to go as well. But as I was telling John with no H, I've got my letter from my pension people through the post this morning, and I was reading into it and finding everything out that I need to. I'll be long dead before I have access to my pension, but that's fine. I've got people to leave money to now.
Let me be the first to congratulate you on your engagement.
Oh, thank you very much, even though it was announced last week. But you wouldn't have known that you were deceased.
I'm still the first.
But yes, thank you very much. She has not left me. We will do a weekly update. She has not left me yet. So I went on to, I think it's the People's Pension I'm with. I can't remember. But I went on, I did all the research, made sure I put my fiance's name in, so she gets all of the not a lot of money so far in there if I was to die before I can release it. Which is another thing. In my lifetime, the age for retiring for men and women has gone up basically a year for every 10 years I've been alive. And I also found out that early access to pensions in 2022, I think it said, or 2028, something like that, will be upped from 55 to 58. So basically, for every 10 years I'm alive, the pension age goes up by a year. So by the time I reach the age, the pension age for the state pension is going to be 72, 73. But the interesting point I wanted to make was the suggestion part is look into your pensions and decide if it's right for you, because if you've got no one to leave it to, you probably won't make it that long. But they asked me to plan the pensions. It asked me to put in some key information, and it would give me an idea of what my life expectancy was and all things like that. And I thought, oh, this could be quite interesting. It asked me for 2 pieces of information, my date of birth and my postcode. Now, in what fucking world is that any science to tell me how long I'm going to fucking live for? It told me that I'm probably going to live to 81. However, there is a 1 in 4 chance that I will live to 91, and there is a 1 in 10 chance I'll live to 101. That's not science, that's bullshit.
No, it's not, because everyone knows it's grim up north and you'll die sooner than us living down south.
Yeah, but that says that if that's the case, even if down south you live 5 years longer, that's saying there is a 1 in 10 chance potentially of you living to 106. That is not how you think. I'm not going to make it to 81. I like a drink. I smoke. Yeah, I will give up shortly, but not just yet. I've been smoking for 10 years. I don't exercise. I don't exactly have a healthy diet. I'm going to be lucky to make it to 41, let alone 81. This is a ridiculous way of fucking trying to make people have a pension. So my advice is...
live fast and die young.
Exactly.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay, next question. Would you rather be a spider or a fly?
I'll take it from that neither of you had an actual suggestion of the week.
No. I was going to say rum over ice is always good.
I'm going to be a spider.
That's a statement.
I would like to be the spider.
Okay.
John, you're the fly.
I'd rather be a fly because I am generally one to say you've got to chase me. I'm not going to come catch you. You've got to chase me.
How did you instantly turn this flirty?
It's what you two bring out in me.
So it's not that flies just aren't as good at spiders and get caught by them because of the predatory thing. It's just a kink. Is that your argument?
Yes. I mean, let's think about it logically. Flies get wrapped up in some sort of binding.
So bondage.
And they get bitten every now and again.
They get bitten. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just...
It is very kinky, actually.
Yeah. And they sometimes they do it sort of... It's quite often in basements that you might get spiders' webs.
Yeah.
But very occasionally out in public, like in the park or something.
Parks, car parks.
All the same places that people go to rut.
Amazing. I've never thought of it like that way. It's definitely a... Well, yeah, I'll never look at flies in the same way. But, I mean...
Does that mean they like it when I get the roll of newspaper and smack them one? And they're going, yeah, harder.
Harder, Daddy.
No, because they're probably screaming the safe word and you're ignoring them.
Oh, is that the issue? Because flies and spiders don't speak the same language, but they have this uncanny sexual arousal drawing them together. But the problem is the spiders don't know the safe word the flies use, so the spiders always go too far. We need to rewrite some science books.
Call David Attenborough.
Well, let's pretend that's not true, because that does throw my argument out of the park. Well, no, the argument that I'm not going to use anyway, because the argument I'm not going to use because it's too easy is, well, the spider is the fly's predator, and you'd always rather be predator than prey, and that's too easy. So I'm going to go with the fact that generally...
You like being the dungeon master, and you like dishing out punishment?
No, generally people are scared of spiders. Nobody's scared of flies. People just don't like flies. And I'd rather be feared than hated.
No, but people hate spiders because they're afraid of them.
People keep spiders as pets. Nobody keeps a fly as a pet.
That's true.
It's very true. We had tarantulas growing up.
I think what it comes down to is, would you rather be able to take off and fly, or spend your life as a professional bungee jumper?
Well, hang on, because Spider-Man is a lot cooler than Jeff Goldblum's The Fly.
No, that's wrong. It's an oxymoron. No one's cooler than Jeff Goldblum.
I don't mind the idea of flying so much, but
it's the one.
Bungee jumping scares the life out of me. I don't want to do that.
Well, I'm scared of both. However, could you imagine, so a fly is named after its only redeeming feature and the fact that it can fly. Spiders are fascinating. Flies are just irritating. Could you imagine if you were just named after your only redeeming feature, John? So if we just referred to you as cheekbones all the time?
He'd love it.
See, no, I can tell his hesitance because on the one hand he's going, oh, I do have nice cheekbones, but then the other part of him's gone, hang on a sec, he said only redeeming feature.
Yeah, what about my eyes?
I was going to say, what about his deep blue eyes? You could swim in them.
But what I'm saying is if you only had one redeeming feature and that's what people addressed you as.
Right.
Would he get to pick which redeeming feature that people addressed him by?
Well, no, because he's clearly got more than one. As we've discussed, he has at least two.
Yeah, John, you sickening bastards.
But spiders are fascinating. There's all these different types of spiders.
There's lots of different types of flies.
Yeah, but they're not as fascinating.
I'm sure if you really looked into it, they would be just as fascinating.
I remember from years ago, I think we were at a festival, and I can't remember if it was myself or Josh that said it, but we were howling with laughter because we were a bit drunk. But a fly landed in a puddle, and I can't remember who it was, but someone went, "Stupid fly, you can't go in there. Otherwise you'd be called a swim." And it was just hilarious, and it still makes me laugh to this day.
What about those flies?
I was going to wait for an opportune moment and then ask you if you're going to pull John's wings off and then call him a walk.
What about those flies?
Ruined.
What about those flies that can land on water and skate on them?
They're a different type of insect. They're not a fly.
Are we sure?
You can't just say that everything that has wings is referred to as a fly. Look at that huge fly. That's an albatross, John. Big fly.
Big fly.
And there's big grey flies all over Nelson's column, cooing and shitting everywhere.
Yeah, well, I've never been scared of spiders. I think they're amazing. Like I said, flies are irritating. They keep the flies out of my house. I go ballistic when I see people killing spiders. Because this is the other thing that nobody thinks about. So, if you kill all the spiders you come across, you're only killing the spiders that were stupid enough to get caught. So you're just creating a world of natural selection where all of the spiders that are mating with each other are the stealthier, stronger, faster spiders. We're breeding killer spiders in our fear.
You know this is absolutely true, right?
Yeah.
Because the biggest spider in our house lived behind the back of our bookcase. The back of the bookcase is covered in webs because it's held off the walls because of the dado rail. There's a nice gap down the back of there, and it was the absolute lord of all it surveyed. We moved the bookcase, and this thing came out. It was absolutely massive. It was like, I'm trying to think of something that's probably as big as, it probably could have touched either end of a lid of a small jar. So it's probably at least 7 centimetres across its legs. And it was the biggest spider in the whole house, and we hadn't known it was there. We don't know how long it had been there, but it had absolutely coated the back of the bookshelf in webs.
Well, it's like
so I relocated it outside because Jess told me that I couldn't charge spider rent because it was that big. But yeah, the biggest spider in the house that killed the most flies was the one that we'd never have seen unless we had to move the bookcase, which we did once.
It was the one that we were in the flat, and John let out a little scream. And we went, "What are you screaming at, John?" And he went, "Nothing," and just smiled at us. And we thought, nothing of it. And about 20 minutes later, on the arm of the sofa, the biggest fuck-off spider you've ever seen crawled up. Everyone it made everyone jump, because I'm not scared of spiders, but if you don't know they're coming, it does make you jump. That's just a natural thing. And John just said, "Oh yeah, that's what I screamed at earlier." I was like, "Why didn't you tell us?" Because all the girls were screaming and trying to run away. And he went, "Well, it's just a spider." So we collected it into a Tupperware jar and then just sat there and got very drunk. John and I had about, would you say it was about 90 minutes? A 90-minute debate about whether spiders were conscious beings or not. And at which point our good friend Tony D just drunkenly repeated everything we said and was going, well, yes, that is a very good point, but John, how do you feel? And then John would say his, and he would repeat like the last 3 words that John would say, and then go, oh, well, Matthew, how do you riposte? And that was the only thing that he contributed to the entire thing. And it got to the point
I walked in and out 3 times in that conversation and went, this is above my station right now. I just left.
And the thing is,
deal with it.
We've never got a definitive answer, and it's one of the few discussions I think John and I have had where we've stayed on. I think it's one of those things that could have if we'd let it destroy our friendship. It was around the era,
which is why it was wiser that it's similar to the orange versus blackcurrant, that we made that a civilized discussion. It could have ended
a lot
everything.
Well, this was before like everyone just Googled stuff, so we text 118. And they didn't answer the question, so I started sending them abusive messages saying, you've not answered our question, and this cost me £1.50, I want my money back. But anyway, we won't go into that. But when's the last time, John, we had a heated discussion about a fly?
Right now.
But it's 50% fly, 50% spider, isn't it? Oh, that would scare me. Spider flies.
If a spider had wings.
Yeah. Tarantulas with, like, big old owl wings.
So they'd be bat wings, wouldn't they?
It's like people. I definitely have a slightly zealous fear of flying ants. As soon as you add wings to anything, it just becomes 50% more terrifying.
Well, yeah, it's like so many people are scared of like moths and butterflies, and I don't get it. Like, you're not scared of caterpillars, but slap some wings on them bad boys, and they're beautiful things.
I hate them. I'm not scared of them, but I do hate them.
For Lauren's birthday,
I do hate them.
What, moths?
Yeah. Why do you hate
butterflies?
Moths? Either.
Well, I hate butterflies because they're just colourful moths.
And you hate moths because they're goth butterflies.
Well, I had an infestation of moths once in one of my flats that I've lived in, and that was awful. And I don't know, I think something about them since then has just made me hate them. It's things like going to prepare some food and then finding that all of the rice is filled with moth eggs and tiny little worms. You go, oh, fuck's sake. Fucking hate moths.
Why does that ever happen to you? I have not once in my life gone to eat some rice and gone, I hope there's not moth eggs in this.
Well, you're lucky enough not to have had the Indian meal moth.
Is that an actual thing?
I think so. I might have made it up, but it also might be real.
See, she doesn't. I don't think she listens to this anymore, so this story's fine to tell. We went to Chester Zoo for Lauren's birthday. Now, my 2 favourite things at Chester Zoo are the Batcave and the Butterfly Farm. We had to pretty much run through the Batcave, whereas I would have stood in there all day. And for someone that's like morbid and into all things death, she should really like bats more. But anyway, we went to the Butterfly Cave, which I thought, she'll be a bit better at the Butterfly Cave. No. Walked through very quickly, and I kid you not, at one point, her fight or flight instincts took over, and I watched her take a swipe at a butterfly at the zoo.
Kill the butterfly.
It's like she stopped herself just in time, but it was just an instinct. And I was like trying not to laugh because I felt bad. I was worried someone had seen, but also, who tries to punch a butterfly at a zoo? Could you imagine if I went to the zoo and started like drop kicking sloths? It's no different.
I'd be amazed because they hang out pretty high.
Oh, the sloth when we were there, he was fucking going for it. He wasn't slow at all. He was just going in circles.
Going mad.
But anyway, so the moral of the story is, if you give anything wings, it gets worse. Therefore, spiders are better.
Any retort to that, John?
Just all my other arguments that I already made.
Spiders win because apparently they're less terrifying.
Yes.
That's according
Also-
to you two weirdos. Would you prefer, or would you rather have a dish that was pasta-based or rice-based?
I'd rather have
Well-
pasta because I think I prefer a lot of the meals. Now, I know, and I'm going to preempt this, I know John is going to put in the argument about curries, Indian, Chinese, you have that with rice. My argument number one is going to be you have no idea whether that tastes any different with pasta, and it probably doesn't. And number two, I've never heard of the pasta moth egg laying moth. But I have heard of the Indian rice egg laying moth.
I'll be honest, I don't think that this moth was that picky. I think it
How do you know? You're not an expert. You just hate them.
Yeah.
Well, I lived with them for long enough. We shared accommodation and meals, apparently.
John lived with his giant spider friend, but he's not an expert.
I gave Steve his personal space. You know, I didn't invade his territory until I evicted him. Let him, just let him be him. Or
Yeah, you had to let him figuratively spread his wings and go out on his own.
The reason that rice is better is that pasta doesn't grow on trees.
Neither does rice.
Well, but it grows.
Yeah, but
plants.
Pasta is made from flour, which is a plant.
Yeah, it requires a lot of processing.
And flour is just very, very tiny rice. Rice is just boring. Rice is just rice, and that's it. Yeah, you can get whole grain rice and brown rice, fine, but it's all just rice. Pasta, all the different shapes and types of pasta you can have. Rigatoni, macaroni. Wait, yeah, no, they are pasta types. I thought they were parts of the Godfather. Lasagna, penne, linguine, tagliatelle, angel pasta. Noodles, do they count as a type of pasta?
Maybe. You could have just gone with like linguine.
I think I said
vermicelli.
vermicelli, ravioli.
I mean, there's lots of different types of rice too.
So you were telling me that pasta has just got a better marketing department than rice?
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely would agree with that because all of those things are just exactly the same. They've just been cut differently.
Are they? They all hold the sauce in different ways and are for different purposes.
Well, I think that there's what could be more different than basmati versus sticky Thai rice versus risotto rice. They're fundamentally different meals. In fact, I'd say they were so different you could serve risotto rice with a side of basmati rice, and that would be perfectly acceptable.
But are they not just
pudding?
Rice pudding. But are they not all just rice which have got different things added to them to make them a different rice?
No.
Are you sure?
Are you sure?
I think they grow differently. I think they're probably from different plants.
Well, we'll never know, and there's no way of finding out. Now, the biggest current issue on this planet is the public's, definitely not the big corporations' use of one-use plastics, but the public's use of one-use plastics. That is the biggest thing that a 14-year-old girl keeps telling us is really bad, apparently. And the worst out of them all...
Riding around the world in a giant carbon fibre super catamaran that will never, ever corrode.
Exactly. And the worst of them all is single-use straws. Now, we all know paper straws are awful. I would rather the turtles die than ever use a paper straw. And I don't really like the metal ones. Do you know what the simple solution is? Long penne pasta.
But you can't drink a hot chocolate through penne pasta.
It would probably... who drinks hot chocolate with a straw?
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Who drinks hot chocolate through a straw? If you're going to drink hot chocolate through anything, it's a Kit Kat.
Yeah.
But most of the time...
There we go. Just drink everything through a Kit Kat.
Would you really want to drink your delicious orange squash through a Kit Kat?
No. I think we decided I was already drinking rum.
Rum with a Kit Kat, yeah.
Yeah.
But the pasta, it's biodegradable, it's cheap to produce, it will last a lot longer than a paper straw, it's not going to kill all the baby turtles like the plastic straw, and also, give it a rinse afterwards, chuck it in a pan, delicious meal. Oh, penne pasta, drinking tomato soup through it, perfect. And as you get close to the bottom, it will cook the pasta, so you just nibble a bit off the end when it's cooked, have another little sip of soup, nibble a bit off the end.
What do you do with it when it's like a chode?
And when it's a chode, you drop it in that last little bit of soup at the bottom, drink it out of the cup like a man, slam it down and tell the bartender another. Don't act like I've never thought about this before and just came up with it on the spot. I know what I'm talking about.
Are you going to take it to Dragon's Den?
The more I think about it, the more I can't think of many flaws to having penne pasta straws.
No, maybe we should market it to pubs and stuff.
Exactly.
Especially the hipster bars.
The hipster bars. But it'd have to be gluten-free pasta, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing rice is good for is drying out your iPhone when you've dropped it in some water. However, all phones these days are waterproof apart from iPhones, so therefore it's your own stupid fault for spending £1,200 on an iPhone. So therefore, rice is redundant.
You can also use rice to make musical instruments.
Can you?
Yeah.
Right.
You put
Rain
rice,
stick.
a rain stick.
No. What? A rain stick is a dried cactus. You mean to make a fake imitation rain stick when you're in preschool?
Yes.
Get a toilet roll.
You also can't eat pasta for breakfast. That's ridiculous.
Of course you can.
Can you eat rice for breakfast?
I've had lasagna for breakfast.
What are Cocoa Pops?
And Rice Krispies, obviously.
And Rice Krispies.
There we go.
And everybody says, whether it's true or not, I don't know, but everybody says breakfast is the most important meal of the day.
I never eat breakfast, and I have still yet not died.
But you just spent the last 10 minutes telling us how you're going to die really early, and I have now figured out the reason.
You're not getting your daily rice intake.
No,
mate.
I meant early. I meant early in the day because breakfast rice is going to kill me. And the main ingredient in pasta is wheat, and you can have shredded wheat for breakfast.
Yeah, but it's not pasta, is it? This is what I'm saying.
But you can have. We've discussed this before on the podcast. Why am I even trying to change this? You can have whatever the fuck you want for breakfast. John had cake and ice cream the other day. He was telling us about it before. You can have whatever you want. I've had lasagna for breakfast. Do you know what there should be? There should be a breakfast ravioli, which has got some scrambled eggs, bacon and sausage in there. Yum, yum, yum.
Yeah, I mean,
Scrambled eggs, no.
You can, but people don't.
But people should. Given the choice between a nice, beef ragu linguine for breakfast and Cocoa Pops, I'm going with linguine all day. And don't you fucking lie to me and say that you wouldn't too.
Look, I get what you're saying about global warming and reusable plastics, but what we have to accept is that global warming is now going to happen. It's too late. Climate change is coming and the world is going to flood. And wheat doesn't grow in flooded fields. But do you know what does? Rice. Rice exclusively grows in flooded fields. It's the food of the future for when we are in dire need of a new planet because we've destroyed this one. Rice will still grow abundantly.
Right, okay. You forced it out of me. Do you want to know my biggest problem with rice?
I don't know. There are no problems with rice.
There is. I have one amazingly massive problem with rice. I cannot cook it. I can cook anything. I'm very good at cooking, but I cannot cook rice. I have never once got it right, and I've given up trying.
I'm superb at cooking rice.
I just can't get it right.
Just watch it. Don't
I do.
wander off.
But that's the beauty of pasta. You can wander off. And my closing argument is, when is the last time a child made you a picture or a bracelet using rice?
When was the last time a child made me a macaroni picture? Never.
That's maybe. Damn it. Yeah, but when is the last time anybody made a picture with rice? People use pasta for it.
I saw a guy on the internet, he poured out a load of rice on the table and then swooshed his fingers around it and changed it into a picture of a face.
Are you sure that wasn't like the old Art Attack videos where they built the picture, then messed it up, and then just reversed the footage for the programme?
No, because he poured it out unless he managed to somehow make the pitcher, smush it all up, and then the rice throw itself back into the container.
Well, John did say there's lots of different types of rice. Maybe there's jumping rice.
Maybe it wasn't even rice. Maybe it was moth eggs.
Maybe it was moth eggs.
Right. I'm going to call it in favour of rice because I'm going to go back to the. I thought you wanted rice to win.
Well, I do, but I also didn't want to win for the second time.
Oh, sorry. Because the breakfast argument, it's something that stuck with me because I hated being called out on the fact that I was trying to not give myself diabetes by not eating cheesecake for breakfast. And I thought, you know what? You can have anything you want for breakfast. I agree with Matt on this point now, but I'm not getting up half an hour earlier to make fucking lasagna for breakfast. I could ready meal it, but then that's not a healthy start to the day, is having processed plastic, fake cheese, terrible bechamel sauce, microwave lasagna. I'm not having it.
Yeah, but you could make a homemade lasagna, put it in the fridge, and then microwave it each day.
But it's not as good as when it comes out of the oven, though, is it?
Yeah.
The oven is the birthplace of the good lasagna.
The oven is the birthplace of the good lasagna.
I want that written on my headstone. Quote John 2019.
Classic.
And if I die before Gordon Ramsay, I want him to read that out at my eulogy and shed a single tear and tell everyone to fuck off.
And next to you is John with his headstone that reads, "There's moths in my curry."
Oh.
Well, I'll accept defeat graciously.
What would you do when we both die and you've got no one to record a podcast with called John?
Oh, I'll have enough material of you both by then that I can literally just make you say anything I want. And I'm pretty sure that
smash guns.
Yeah, technology will have developed that maybe I could just get voice modulators, feed all of your stuff into it. In fact, by that point, I won't even need to record myself. I'll just feed all of the podcasts we've got into one of those pre-writing things that people do where they're like, we made a computer watch 100 episodes of Friends and then it wrote a script. I'd just do that and then use the technology to make it read it in our voices and just record and just bosh, done. And our podcast will continue for...
It'll probably make more sense.
It'll make more sense.
Oh no. Getting replaced by robots. Bloody robots taking our jobs.
They took our jobs.
They took our jobs.
Well, anyway, they've been John, and I have not. Been nice to see you again.
Pasta la vista.
I hate you two.
And if we had 4 arms and 2 legs, we'd be Goro from Mortal Kombat.
Or Machop, which is I thought we were going to go. No,
and it's Machamp, but anyway.
Machamp. Fuck!
Nothing means something. Will somebody do it? Will everybody go?